this is a major disagreement I have with almost everybody who watches my stream. So I don't believe that the news media is shaping people nearly as much as I think K-Max believes, because even these left-wing radicals who buy into massive police racism, they're not living in black areas. Everybody is pretty much race realist in the way that they conduct their daily lives. So you can have the media say all day long 1619 Project, white racism, white racism, white racism, but in the people's choices in daily life, they're very race realist. They don't go living in black neighborhoods, generally speaking, if they're not black. And most people have different expectations for different groups of people. So to me, it's just common sense. We did not evolve to be gullible. If we evolved to be gullible, we wouldn't be here. So on abstract issues, there's no price paid for an individual, whatever he believes about police brutality, generally speaking. So it's a way of virtue signaling. It's a way, what did Rob Henderson call it? A luxury good, a luxury belief that it
Luxury
shows.
belief, yeah.
Yeah, luxury belief. It's a luxury belief. You have to be really smart to believe that the primary problem between blacks and police is that the police are so racist. So that's a luxury belief, and it signals to your fellow whites, your fellow wokesters, your social class that you belong with them. So the elite always have to constantly evolve new ways of communicating and signaling to each other to distinguish themselves from those below them in status. And staying up to date with the latest, woke perspectives is the way that you signal you're not middle class and that you're elite. But people's minds are not being profoundly changed by the news media. The news media is dominantly on the left, yet this nation elected Donald Trump in 2016. It came about 45,000 votes from re-electing him in 2020. It elected George W. Bush twice, it elected Richard Nixon twice, it elected Ronald Reagan twice, even though the news media despised, generally speaking, Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump. So I don't believe people were born yesterday. I don't believe people evolved to be gullible. People evolve to take pretty good decisions with regard to their own welfare. Now, with regard to their beliefs about abstract matters that have very little to do with their daily lives, and they can believe anything. It makes no difference whether they believe that Jesus Christ is their personal savior, or they believe that Zeus is their personal savior, or they believe in systemic police racism. Side answer, it's kind of incredible how neoliberal economics has become dominant. Like the purported right has largely won on economic policy. We have relatively low marginal tax rates. We have relatively low capital gains rates. We have relatively few government interventions with regard to industry. The Ronald Reagan type approach, the Margaret Thatcher type approach has, generally speaking, won with regard to economic policy, but the left has won with regard to everything else. And it particularly became dominant in the late Obama era collapse, like 2013, 2014. That's when things shifted. And so why did things shift then? So I think part of it is more racially diverse, and obviously groups who have a rational incentive to want more government intervention, who have a rational incentive to want more government welfare. It makes sense that they would vote for the left. I don't know. Joseph, what's your answer?
I agree that the great awakening, which we're now living through, did begin around. I think that it had. Its roots go way back, but I think that it had sort of the beginnings of a critical mass of the American population with the Trayvon Martin thing that set people up to be radicalized very quickly. Then I think the Michael Brown thing in 2014 is what set this thing really rolling, and then Donald Trump was such a counterforce to it that it became more radical to differentiate itself from him, and that attracted a lot of people who just dislike Trump. And so now you have this sort of woke tidal wave. I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that people today are earning less than they used to, adjusted for inflation, and yet they're more educated than they used to be. So they have all these beliefs that are totally unmarketable. They have all this debt, and they don't see any way forward for themselves. And when you combine that with the cultural radicalization that I just mentioned, which came about because of social media, and also because more people are in these educational institutions to begin with, you have sort of this perfect storm. And then you have a lot of kids who are the product of broken houses where they don't see any value in something culturally conservative because they think, well, you're just conserving something that basically left me as the child of a divorcee or someone who's never married. And I really don't see anything there worth preserving in family values. There probably is an envy of people who grew up in more stable situations. So I think that the whole thing produces sort of like a perfect storm of leftism, which we're now living through. And I don't see it ending anytime soon. Even younger so called people on the right tend to be left tries to cancel the right more than the other way around. I see Twitter all day saying, how can we scare Fox News advertisers? How can we cancel Tucker Carlson? I never see the right working so hard to cancel the left, and it frustrates us.